Hello. Welcome to my channel, Library of Peyton. I'm Peyton, obviously. I thought it'd be fun to do a little reading vlog of me as I read Babel. I can't tell you how excited I am to read this book. R.F. Kuang is just an absolute genius. The Poppy War trilogy is one of my favorite series, if not my favorite series of all time. It's definitely up there. I can't think of one I like better right now, but that's a bold claim. Honestly, I think it is. It's my favorite series of all time. I'm gonna say it right here, right now. The Poppy War has my heart and soul. So, getting into Babel, I basically know nothing about this book going into it. I tried to shield myself from any information, so all I know is that it's got dark academia vibes and that I have not heard a single bad thing about it from people who had ARCs or have already finished the book. So I think that's a good sign. But other than that, I literally know nothing about it. I didn't read the synopsis, I didn't read anything about it. So I'm really excited to, get into it. That being said, I did start it because I wasn't ready to film this little intro yet, but I had to start the book. Like, I was dying. It was physically paining me to abstain from reading this book. I was in the middle of reading The Stone Sky. I timed my reading wrong, and The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin is a fantastic book. It's a great book, but I just wanted to be done with it so that I could read Babel. Although I did completely enjoy The Stone Sky, but I was like, I need to finish this book. I need to finish it because Babel. Also, the whole controversy, Babel versus Babel. I was familiar with the Tower of Babel, before this book, but because I've heard it so many different ways now from people on like TikTok or Twitter, I guess not Twitter, Instagram maybe, I don't know, mostly TikTok. I've heard Babel and Babel. I don't remember how I referred to the biblical story, but I'm gonna call it Babel because they call the people who work in the Tower of Babel babblers, and I just feel like it wouldn't make much sense if it was babblers. If it was Babel and they called them babblers or babblers, like, it just doesn't make sense to me, but R.F. Kuang said you can say it anyway, so. And she is a goddess and anything she says goes, so I won't judge you if you say Babel or Babel. Maybe I'll mix it up, say Babel sometimes, say Babel sometimes. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, as I was saying, I did start the book. I am approximately 79 pages in. I am obsessed. I love it. I love R.F. Kuang's writing style because it's just so enticing and engaging and descriptive. I feel like it's also accessible and easy to read and comprehend. It's not full of all these crazy, confusing words. It's easy to understand, but also I do feel smart when I read it, Also, like, for a dark academia type book, I don't feel like it's super pretentious. So I have a few thoughts. We'll start off with the author's note. This author's note is iconic. She basically told anyone that had issues with the small historical inaccuracies to go touch grass. I love it. I love her. I'm obsessed. I also love how the first chapter, it immediately establishes the boy as a likable character because he cannot leave his books behind. That's the only thing he cares about in his house. Like, I am the boy is me. The boy's name is Robin, but at that time when I was reading it, he was just the boy. But yeah, I already felt a connection to him. Like, genius. I know a lot of books have main characters that love reading, but I always think it's a smart thing to do. Because what reader doesn't love another reader, Unless the other reader is like a racist, homophobic reader, a gross person that reads gross books, but he doesn't read gross books, okay? And also, some of these scenes are just so painful to read, just like the racism blatantly shown. It's really hard to see like younger people who speak both languages being forced to choose between translating cruel racist comments and remarks or making up translations to protect your elders. And I think that's a really hard decision to make, because on the one hand, they want to protect their loved ones, but on the other hand, if they don't translate it, then a lot of times it just kind of exacerbates this stigma that people who don't speak English are less than or dumb, and it's just heartbreaking, especially when you are in their country and expect them to speak English. What? Why? How does that make any sense? And this isn't just like an 1800s problem, this is a now problem. Like, I lived in Japan for 3.5 years, and not to toot my own horn, but I tried to use my Japanese as much as I could because I was in their home. So obviously I should be trying to do everything I can to make it easier for them to communicate with me, especially if I'm asking them to do something for me, like asking for directions or something like that. Obviously I should be trying to cater to them. But yeah, I'm just kind of rambling. I hate racism. That's what I have to say. I also really love that a lot of the Chinese quotes and stuff like that have translations in the footnotes. I absolutely abhor going to look it up. Kuang is a real one for that. Also, I just love reading words about words. It's just so interesting how some slang words came about, because a lot of times it really makes no sense. Like, perhaps it does in the context of life back then, but like, why would you say Hampsteads instead of teeth? It's a longer word. It just makes no sense to me. 40 pages in, I was already tearing up. I don't know if I quite shed a tear, but I was on the verge. I'm not gonna tell you what happened because I want this to be a spoiler-free, but I got hurted. Also, immediately, Rami and Robin, when they first met, I shipped them. I shipped them so hard. They were reciting poems to each other on the first day, and a nickname on the first day. Is that not a relationship? And then just, even not in a romantic way, their friendship is just so beautiful. I literally started crying because Robin was just so happy that he found a friend like him that he can just, talk to, and I want a friend like that. I'm lonely, okay? Also, I have a few predictions about what happens next, but we're just gonna see where the book takes me. I'm actually really hungry, so I need to make lunch. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I think it's really boring when people just play music and show scenes from their lives, so I'm gonna do little voiceovers here. I'm reading Babel while eating lunch. I was just hypersensitive of the fact that I was being recorded, so I didn't get much reading done. And also I really wanted sriracha, and I couldn't decide if I should get up and get it. But eventually I did, and my meal tasted much better, so that's that. Then I had to run some errands, so I took the train, and I was a butthole and passed these people down the stairs. Whoops. I was able to get a little bit of reading done on the train, always a good time. Here's a nice little view of the buildings in case you're like, I don't know, an architecture fan or something. I also went to a consignment shop and I actually had a lot of success, so that was a win. And I was pretty close to the Strand bookstore, so I walked over there because it's literally heaven, and anytime I'm nearby, I just have to go. People were kind of giving me weird looks when I was videoing, especially this one kid that saw me, and it made me really uncomfortable, but you know what? It's okay. I'm never gonna see him again. It's that kid in the striped shirt.
Hello. It's currently 5 in the morning, and I am awake for some god-awful reason. And I just don't think that I'm going to be able to fall back to sleep. So that's fun. But I'm going to use this extra hour that I have to read. So maybe it's good. Last night I stopped reading right when I felt like things were picking up, because I knew that if I kept reading, I wasn't going to be able to stop, and I was really tired and wanted to give my full attention to the book. So put it down, went to bed. So I'm very excited to get to the exciting stuff.
After a little bit of reading, I went on a run in Central Park while listening to an audiobook. I honestly cannot remember which one I was listening to, but I think it was probably a thriller, because I literally cannot stop listening to thrillers at the moment. And here I literally collided with a man, so that's fun. Good morning. So currently I am about 320 pages in, a little bit over halfway. I was hoping to have a little bit more read by this morning, but unfortunately I had a very bad headache, and was absolutely exhausted for some reason. Probably because I went on a run and sweat profusely and did not drink enough water, but whatever. Anyway, so I ended up going to bed at like 9:15, so didn't really get much reading done. However, I do have like a few things that I want to discuss for right now. So first of all, this book is just giving me a really strong appreciation for translators. I'd never really thought about how creative you need to be in order to translate a book or poetry or whatever. The way that R.F. Kuang describes it, it's like you need to be a writer, a poet. I really should mark with tabs, but I get lazy and don't. So instead I just highlight things. Oh, here we go. So the translator needs to be translator, literary critic, and poet all at once. He must read the original well enough to understand all the machinery at play, to convey its meaning with as much accuracy as possible, then rearrange the translated meaning into an aesthetically pleasing structure in the target language that, by his judgment, matches the original. The poet runs untrammeled across the meadow. The translator dances in shackles. I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. And it's just so interesting. I've never thought about it that way. And yeah, I want to read more translated literature. I also, just the commentary on racism. I feel like this book has just been really eye-opening for me because I'm a white person and obviously haven't had to deal with the struggles of being a BIPOC person. Just seeing how BIPOC people who do have a lifestyle that is more akin to the lifestyle of a white person, I guess, and just having the advantages and opportunities that white people have had for such a long time. They have to choose between accepting that their people are suffering and enjoying those advantages and privileges while still facing racism at the same time, but they still get a better lifestyle than what a lot of their fellow BIPOC people face. Or they have to risk everything that they have in order to help their people. And that's really not an easy decision because they may have, lucked out, or they may have worked very hard to get where they're at. And having to potentially sacrifice that can be difficult. And then if you do express dismay for how your people are being treated, you're berated as being ungrateful and undeserving of what you've been given, because you're not appreciating it enough. But it's like, if you see people suffering, you can still be grateful for what you have and want others to have it as well. And that just, I don't understand how so many white people don't get that. Additionally, I think it's interesting how Robin has to battle with the fact that he didn't ask for this life. He didn't ask for these privileges and these advantages and this luxurious lifestyle that he's been given. He didn't want it. He was taken away from his home. He was forced into it. And while he does enjoy the lifestyle that he lives most of the time, he struggles with feeling like he deserves it and whatnot. And that's just interesting as well. Another question I don't really know how to answer it, but should we sacrifice progress for the sake of people's lives, livelihoods, and ability to work, whatnot? Because the silver is replacing people who work, and they need to be able to work to provide for their families, to have food, to have clothes, to live. And I think that's applicable to real life, obviously, because technology is replacing people's jobs all the time. At the same time, it's also creating jobs, but those jobs often require more education, more expertise. So it's just like, yes, we want to progress society and technology as much as we can, but how do we do that in a way that doesn't leave thousands, millions, whatever, people destitute and jobless? And should we limit the amount of progress that we do see within time periods, or should we just keep trucking along? Obviously, I'm a fan of progress, I'm a fan of technology, but I hate to see people suffer in response to those progressions. So yeah, just food for thought, what I've been thinking. Hopefully, I think if I work hard, I can probably finish it today, maybe tomorrow morning. We'll see. Now I gotta go work, so. Well, I finished Babel. Guys, it was so good. And what pains me the most is that the people who need to read this book, who need to consume the message and allow it to change their lives, are not going to be the ones that read this book. So that's frustrating and disheartening, but I think that everybody who does read it is definitely going to get something from it, and honestly, it's just a life-changing book. The way I see the world, the way I view academia, the way I view colonialism, and the necessity of violence when trying to accomplish progress. I think my whole perspective on that has changed. While I haven't like completely changed my mind on things because I already kind of align with R.F. Kuang's views, but definitely just looking at it from another perspective, it was super interesting and just kind of bolstered my views and gave me more confidence in what I believe. Not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping for a, you know, more heartwarming ending, but I should have known better. This is R.F. Kuang, she wrote The Poppy War. Obviously, I wasn't gonna get the ending that I wanted. I was pretty proud of myself. I was able to predict a lot of things that happened, but not in the sense that I thought, oh, it was so obvious that it was gonna happen. I think that R.F. Kuang does a really good job of dropping hints and clues, but not making it too obvious, just like slight foreshadowing, or it just kind of, because a lot of times in books, you think it's gonna be the happy thing that happens, and the best thing for the characters. They get lucky, stuff like that. But with R.F. Kuang, I know to expect real life situations and real life results from people's decisions. I was able to predict basically the worst, what I thought would be the worst possible thing to happen were often things that happen. So there you have it. I just thought this book was so interesting, and it makes me want to learn every single language. I mean, I've always wanted to learn every single language. When I was a kid, I would switch up what superpower I wanted, but for the longest time it would be that I could speak, read, and understand every single language. Like, language has always been a passion of mine, even though I speak English and a little bit of Japanese and a little bit of Spanish, but I always get in these phases where I'm like obsessed with learning a language, and then eventually I just get busy and falter out, and there's no one to talk to in other languages. So I think that throughout the book you could just see R.F. Kuang's passion for language as well. The amount of research that had to have gone into this book, it baffles me. How did she, so much research. I think the biggest letdown, I saw it coming and it happened, and I was just so upset because I'm just kind of rambling, but I think that everyone needs to read this book. It's so good. And R.F. Kuang's writing, I mentioned this before, but it's just so, I just find it really accessible. She writes in a way, it's didactic, but it's not pretentious, and it's not overwhelmingly didactic. Like, it doesn't sound extremely academic, but it's teaching you in a way that's fun to learn. Like, if R.F. Kuang wrote my textbooks, I would actually read them, you know? It's great. And she's just really good at character building, and like, you connect so much with all of the characters, even the ones that are not like main proponents of the story, and you hurt for them and you love them, and you're upset when they make decisions that you don't agree with, but you can understand why they did that. And also just the fact that she came up with the whole magic system is incredible, like nothing I've ever read before, and that she just came up with because the magic system works, it's hard for me to explain. You use the slight variation in the meaning of a word as it is translated, basically, can create magic that makes that variation happen, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it well at all, but you have to come up with these match pairs of words in at least 2 different languages, or like a chain of words that kind of lead to where you want it to go. And the fact that R.F. Kuang was able to create so many and like come up with so many in so many different languages, it's insane. If I could have anybody's brain, I think I would choose R.F. Kuang's, because going from the Poppy War, which is just so military strategic, I mean, these are both like in a way kind of strategic. This one's not necessarily military, but it kind of, but you're not like a full-blown war, but just her brain is amazing and I want it. Unfortunately, if I got a brain transplant, I would probably not utilize her brain in the best way possible, so I'll allow her to keep it. But if I ever do need to get a brain transplant, I will demand R.F. Kuang's first and foremost, if she died and her brain is preserved. I hope she doesn't die. I hope I die before her so that I never have to live in a world where she's not creating new works for me to read. I love her so much. But yeah, read this book. Well, thank you guys so much for watching my first ever reading vlog of Babel. Hopefully I got some semblance of thought, like coherent thought, across to you guys. Yeah, and thank you just for spending some time with me and getting to know me. I hope to get to know you guys too. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want to. Don't have to, no pressure, but be appreciated. Yeah.